Think back to 1960. Your grandfather bought a piece of land and just got to work. No paperwork, no inspectors. He didn't have to wait around for someone in an office to say yes. He built what he wanted, when he wanted. That land was his, fully and completely. Now, try doing the same thing, and you'll run into a wall of regulations. The freedom he took for granted is now buried under layers of red tape. So what happened? Let's take a look at how real property ownership quietly disappeared in America. Back in the 1960s, when you bought land, it was yours, really yours. You didn't just get a deed and a tax bill, you got freedom. No zoning board told you what you could or couldn't do. If you wanted to build a shed, add a porch, or raise a few chickens out back, you didn't have to fill out 10 forms and wait 3 months. You just did it. People took pride in shaping their land with their own hands. Your house reflected you, not some design committee. Maybe the roof was tin, maybe the paint was peeling, but it was yours. Neighbors didn't complain or report you to the city. They came over to help you dig, hammer, or carry lumber. That's just how things worked. And most amazing of all, no one thought of this as radical or rebellious. It was just normal life. That land was your little piece of America, and nobody questioned it. But it wasn't just about building. It was about living. Your dad in 1965 didn't fill out forms when he needed a shed. He just cleared the weeds, leveled the dirt, and started hammering. No permit office, no zoning board, just his tools, some lumber, and a quiet Saturday. Maybe he built it for his fishing boat. Maybe it was a place to fix up the lawnmower or store paint buckets and old radio parts. Whatever the reason, nobody told him no. And if something leaned a little crooked, he fixed it, learned from it. That was the deal. Your land, your rules. You might remember helping, holding the flashlight, handing him nails, watching sawdust fly through the air. Those moments weren't just chores, they were freedom, passed down like a birthright. And here's what really made it special. It wasn't just about building, it was about earning a living on your own terms, right there in your own driveway. Your dad didn't drive across town for a side job. He opened the garage door, popped the hood, and fixed neighbors' cars right in the driveway. No license, no business registration, no commercial zoning laws breathing down his neck. Just skill, grit, and a handshake. Maybe your mom sold tomatoes out front or gave piano lessons in the living room. The house wasn't just a home. It was how your family survived. Everyone hustled. No one thought twice about it. People made a living from their land without needing a lawyer. You weren't violating codes. You were just doing what families had done for generations. Try running a backyard mechanic shop today and see how fast the city shuts you down. Now, it's unauthorized commercial activity. Back then, it was called being resourceful. And here's the thing, your land didn't just support your wallet, it supported your water, your food, your future. Your grandfather in 1955 didn't wait for permission to find water. He walked his land at sunrise, holding a willow branch like a compass. When it bent toward the earth, he knew where to dig. Then came the sound, metal striking rock, the splash of cold water rising from below. That first drink from the new well, ice cold, laced with iron, and somehow sweeter than anything from a tap. Water that tasted like home. He taught your dad to taste the minerals, to feel when a well was running clean, to trust the smell of the soil and the rhythm of the pump. These weren't skills from books. They were passed down, father to son, until we stopped needing to know. Now we turn a handle and trust strangers. But that connection between a man and the land that quenched his thirst meant something. And this wasn't just about water. It was about feeding your family with what you could grow, raise, and harvest, right there in your backyard. Your dad never bought eggs from a store. He walked 20 steps to the coop, reached into warm straw, and pulled out breakfast while the hens were still settling. You remember the low clucks, the smell of hay, the way feathers floated in the morning sun. That wasn't organic. That was just normal. Behind the coop, your mom was already in the garden. Her hands were black with soil before coffee was even made. She taught you how to feel when dirt was ready, crumbly, not sticky. How to spot the perfect tomato by its deep red blush and gentle give. How to harvest without bruising the vine. That food didn't come with a barcode. It came from the ground you grew up on and the people who taught you how to live from it. And no one judged your patchy lawn or noisy hens. That little backyard was a world of its own. It fed your family, it told your story, and it looked exactly how you needed it to, without asking anyone's permission. Your dad painted the house bright yellow in 1962 because your mom said it reminded her of sunshine. The neighbors didn't complain. They waved from their purple porch across the street. Back then, color came from memories, not guidelines. The tin roof drummed when it rained. The screen door snapped shut behind you, over and over. The porch creaked under the weight of 3 generations at dinner time, stories mixing with the smell of your mom's pot roast and the sound of your grandfather's laugh. The paint peeled in places, sure, but that was character. The lawn chairs didn't match, but they all knew your name. The garden border was made of bricks you helped stack. The front fence? Your grandfather showed you how to pull good wood from a collapsed barn and make it stand again. Those weren't just building skills, they were life lessons. Nobody judged how your house looked. It looked like you. And if your dad wanted to build a little home for his parents out back, he didn't file paperwork, he just built it. When your grandfather's hands got too shaky to hold his coffee steady, your dad didn't look for a nursing home. He picked up his hammer and started building, one nail at a time, before the frost lifted off the grass. The sound of that hammer echoed across the yard at dawn. You remember the smell of sawdust mixing with morning coffee. The porch creaked before it was even painted. And by the end of the week, there stood a small cottage with a rocking chair, a wood stove, and a window that caught the morning sun. You brought him coffee every morning, in the blue cup he'd used for 40 years. At night, you'd see the glow from his lamp, hear the distant rhythm of his radio, and know he was warm and close. Your land didn't need approval to hold family. It just needed heart. 3 generations lived within shouting distance. Your uncle fixed his truck out back. The cousins ran barefoot through the yard. It wasn't crowded. It was connected. And if someone showed up needing help, there was always a spare room and always a porch light left on. There was a time when if you had a spare room, you simply hung a wooden sign out front, room for rent. That was it. No license, no inspection, no websites. And most days, someone came. A traveler passing through, a cousin between jobs, maybe a man named Fred who stayed 2 nights, left $20 on the table, and fixed your screen door before he left. Your mom would make an extra plate at dinner. You'd hear the guest's suitcase bumping down the hallway. Sometimes he played cards with your dad on the porch. Sometimes he just needed a quiet place to sleep off the road. It wasn't business, it was neighborly. It was how people helped each other before paperwork replaced trust. And if you had a barn, a trailer, or even an extra couch, you made space. Not because the rules allowed it, but because your land was yours. And if there were trees to clear, a ditch to dig, or rocks to haul, you didn't ask permission, you just got to work. When the old oak crashed across your driveway in the spring of '68, your dad didn't call anyone. He grabbed his axe before the insurance man could even pull in the yard. "Come on," he said, "I'll show you how to turn a problem into firewood." You still remember the satisfying crack as the grain split clean. The sap stuck to your arms, sweet and sticky under the sweat. He showed you how to place your feet, how to read the grain, how to listen. "The tree will tell you where it wants to fall," he said. "You just have to pay attention." Neighbors pulled over just to watch. Mrs. Henderson brought cold lemonade. Nobody asked for permits. They just respected the work. By sundown, your palms were blistered, your back sore, and the old oak was stacked neat by the shed. You rinsed off with cold well water, dirt in your hair, pride in your chest, and the next morning, the axe was leaning by the door again, because there was always more land to clear and more freedom to build with your own two hands. When your dad built that little workshop behind the house in '72, he didn't draw plans or ask permission. He just cleared the grass on Saturday morning, and by Sunday night, the frame was standing. You remember the sound of his hammer echoing through the morning frost, the smell of fresh lumber mixing with coffee from the kitchen window, the way he'd run his hand over each board, checking for splits, grain, balance, before driving the nail home. That place wasn't just a shed. It held his tools, his radio, and 1,000 quiet lessons. How to keep a blade sharp, how to store oil rags safe, how to measure twice and cut once. You learned all that there, standing beside him, sawdust in your socks. And the best part? It's still there. Your grandfather would smile to see it. The same old bench, the same old hammer, the same stories living in the walls. Maybe that's why we remember. Because the best things we ever built weren't just buildings. They were lessons passed down, connections held tight, and the feeling that somewhere on this earth there was a little piece of it made just for you. What memory sticks with you the most? When did you feel like your land was really yours? Tell us your story in the comments. And if you remember when freedom lived in your backyard, hit subscribe. We've got more to remember together.